Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. John Traver is with us today. He is one of the great names, and his company is one of the great brands in the automotive retail industry. John Traver, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Ted, you should say that a couple times. Welcome back. Welcome back. 19 Fixed Ops Roundtables. We all salute you. Thanks for leading this so well. And we're excited to be back, my friend. Thank you.
John, you play personally a big role in the roundtable, and I got to thank you because so many of our attendees, dealers, managers rely on Traver Connect and all you do for them in the industry. You're on the cutting edge with technology, so thank you for all you do. The phones have been a huge topic, especially the last 6 months, and now here early in 2023. So I'm excited what you have to share with us today at the Wild West.
Hey, it is wild. And you're right. The more things change, some things still stay the same. So the phones. Ted, the Wild West is indeed wild. 23 is, there's some unknowns, right? You and I have talked about this offline, online phone calls, and now here in the roundtable. And audience, as you listen and are mapping your way into 23, certainly you're thinking the same thing. We call them the known unknowns. I think Frank calls it that on Blue Bloods, right? The known unknowns. So there's some of those interest rates and all kinds of things going on. So how do we approach that? Well, I always start with history before I go forward because I think history teaches us. Ted, you and I grew up in a generation, Robert Conrad. When I think Wild West, I think wild, Wild West. I don't have my cowboy hat on me today. It's at the ranch, but hey, listen, we are all sort of riding and blazing a trail west as we get rolling. So to me, as you look back, maybe not quite as far back as the 60s and the wild, Wild West, let's look back into 22 real quick. About a month ago, the year closed out. And of course, one of the top stories you're going to see in automotive news is the story of Carvana, right? I remember when this article on the Dallas car buyers get their very own quirky car vending machine. That was 2017. If you can see it on my slide, you'll see it's datelined 2017. That stock, went up. And of course, it's gone down. It's one of the top 10 stories of the year. It's a $4 or $5 stock today. I'm not going to talk about that. What I want to talk about around business development, which is our passion here at Traver Connect, is three things that can allow you to focus as you go into 23 and maximize your opportunities this year. These are things you control. Stuff like this, you don't always control, right? It's out of your control. And so we want to control the controllables, the known knowns. But it's not just Carvana, everyone. I mean, here's Uber. I mean, this is a business that fascinates me. As of Q3, Ted, they were at 23 billion in revenue, and they were upside down by almost $10 billion. So how do you do 23? Wow. They're going to run over 30 billion for the full year.
John, built with a B.
With a B, Ted. That's with a B. Now, I will give you an asterisk if you really want to dive into this. The year prior through Q3, I think they had lost like $1.4 billion, somewhere around there. So there was a write-down that took place during the course of 22 that added to that. But my point is, it's not like this is a startup. These guys have been around and they're still, they're still having to print money to pay the bills, you see? So why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because our audience, our fellow dealers, our vendor partners, they're doing battle in a space where cash flow is really important. So as I said, Larry reaches out and he asks a handful of questions. He says, John, tell me this. He says, what was really important in the old normal? So this isn't just pre-COVID, but the things that followed COVID, right? The old normal. And now it's still really important. What was important then, but really isn't as important? Like for Traver, you can guess it's facilities. We have this massive facility here, and it's incredible. It's a really nice place that we've built out together. But a lot of our staff is working abroad, coast to coast. And so that's an example. Some of you can relate to this. So what was sort of important, but now has become more important? What was sort of important, but isn't as important? And then what was low then, but is important now? And I just thought this was awesome. So I told him, I said, okay, I'm going to answer these questions for you. Give me a little bit. He goes, John, don't go deep. He goes, gut level. So, okay. So I thought about it, Ted, and, I came back to him and I answered. And I said, hey, the only caveat is I want to know what everybody else is saying. He's got 120 CEOs from around the globe. And he said, look, he said, this is what's really a priority in the new normal, explaining what's important for me, achieving clarity in goals and communications, finding more and better collaboration technology, prioritizing culture, leadership over bossing,
Yeah.
reinventing, driving greater trust and transparency, focusing on logistics, environmental, social governance, decentralizing decisions that gain more action. Less
Mm,
important, surprising, incentive plans,
mm,
strategy, conferences,
mm,
rules, facilities, speed, process manuals. Very, very enlightening. I know it makes you smile because, I mean, you can kind of see where you fall, right?
mhm.
And so to me, this is so powerful for everybody as we think about going into 23. Where do I fit? Where am I at on the water as I navigate my way across the sea as we try and, again, make another step up with each of our organizations? So here's my summary message. This is what I want to share with you today. It's not always the big that eat the small. I've already showed you Uber. I showed you Carvana, right? It's looking more like the wise, Ted, that outdistance the hasty. This is a marathon, man. This is a marathon. And so, I love Charlie Munger. I just do. He's a little stodgy, he's a little stiff, but I always know he's going to shoot me straight. And he says this, he says, acknowledging what you don't know is the dawning of wisdom. Like, I love that. So it's really a question as you go into this year, like, what don't we know? Okay, these are the things that are the unknowns. So I want to give you 3 in today's message that are in your control all year. If you're ready, saddle up, Ted, in our wild, wild west. Let's do this. Number 1 is this. I wrote these, Ted, 30 years ago. These were 10 principles for
No.
business development, yes, at Traver Technologies. And I'm pulling them out of the bag and sharing them with the team today. And I'm going to apply it to today because these are timeless. Number 1 is this: a little plus a little plus a little equals, Ted,
A lot.
a lot. So where are those little areas that will make a big difference? I'm going to unpack about 5 of them for you today.
Okay.
Number 2, greater is he or she that can get 10 people to do their job than he or she that does a job of 10.
Yes.
You remember the old, you're the man? Let me handle that. Let me go desk that deal. Let me take the turn. I'll handle it. The problem with that is you're it. And eventually
Yeah.
you're a dead man or
Mm,
a dead woman. The idea is to duplicate yourself. The third is good training will overcome bad instincts. And I'm
nice.
going to take you somewhere that you'll never, ever forget
Okay.
today and show you that training is a path that will make a difference. So those are the big 3. Ted, can I press on? Are we
Yes, sir.
okay? All right. So, the first one is a little plus a little plus a little equals a lot. So what are they? I told you I'd give you 5. The first one is this. It's you want to raise the bar on CX. So if I'm sitting with you in the store, these are the questions we're going to ask each other. If we're partners, I think I'm going to start with this question. Ed Roberts, bless your heart. I'm going to ask this. Are we providing mobile service?
Mhm,
Yes or no? Not,
mhm.
well, no, real simple. Yes or
Yes or
no?
no? Yeah.
And are we providing pickup or delivery?
Mhm.
Okay. So those are 2 areas where CX, where you can change the bar. And you say, John, do I have to do all these? You don't have to do anything. You got to be born, you got to breathe, the rest you made up. Right. So, you get to do this. You get to do this. What do our reviews online say about our experience? Don't tell me what your CSI scores are. Go online, because what they don't say will tell you what you're not doing. That's the opportunity. Make sense? 2 is squeeze the lemon, right? Squeeze the lemon, maximize every RO. Tully, when you're talking about selling hours, God bless America, you're nailing it. Here it is: underselling. We have enough business, it's in the lane. It's already there. Identify and sell maintenance. Okay, any other tips? I would say, yeah, use the tools available, the video, the texting. So it's not just short message service, but it's multimedia service, MMS, which is video coming through their text. We have the tools. So when you hear folks talking about it, you see where it fits. This is the second area that's a little bit better this year, starts to add up. 3 is own. Emphasize the word own those UIOs. What's a UIO for those that don't know? Units
It's
in
an operation.
operation. You wrote the check. First thing I would say is this. Anytime I'm talking to any of our stores, I'll always say this: hey, retention's a verb. It's a verb. It's not a state. It's a verb. It's an action. Okay. So you already wrote the check. Show me the process. Show me the program. Every year here, we rewrite our retention programs for our dealers. Like whatever we're doing last year, we've already raised the bar. Whatever we finish with this year, we'll raise the bar because there's so much room to conquest more of what's already been paid for. Winning in owner retention is the name of the game. Number 4 area, a little plus little wins. Conquest every recall. So what I'm saying is if you have a UIO that comes through your drive that you didn't sell, you've never serviced, that's a conquest. Ted, agreed?
Mhm, mhm.
Yes?
Yep.
Okay. How much did you pay to get him in the lane?
Mhm.
Nothing. Nothing. So let me ask you, were they just visitors or are they now part of the Ings family?
Yeah, sure.
You know, what have you done last month? How many came through? What was the average RO? And
Right.
what was the initiative your store took to own those folks? Conquest every recall. 5, you hear me say it
Awesome.
often, catch the calls. You know, I only got to say 2 words, the phones. And everybody knows what we're talking about, right? We all kind of look in our like, you know,
Yeah,
forgive
we
me.
know.
I
Yep.
said, you know. So it's, hey, we're still 1 out of 5 we miss. We abandon. What does abandon mean? It means they sit on hold so long or they get transferred to so many departments that wasn't really where they were trying to get to. And all they're trying to do is, hey, would you take my money? Yeah. Would you open a new RO?
Please,
And
please.
pretty please. Yeah. So 5 areas, Ted, a
Okay.
little plus a little. Would you agree these 5 make a meaningful difference in 23?
Absolutely, 100%, John. In fact, I think you're low with the 18%, as you know, but we'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
My whole thing always is I'm not trying to punch anybody in the mouth. All
Mhm.
I'm trying to do is just get them to
Yep,
nod to the point where they can begin to
yep,
help
yeah,
themselves. And it is low. And what I would say is all of these are in their control.
yeah,
Look, partners out there,
very
these are
much.
all in your control. So that's 1. I said there were 3. Number 2 is this, greater is he who can get 10 people to do their job and he who does a job of 10. There's 3 things I want to say. One is great organizations have people who are inspired by their leadership. They're inspired. The second thing is they have people that are driven by their own desires to win and excel. So, like, I can't put that in you, Ted. You either have that or you don't, right? But you're counting on me. Somebody once said to me, Jay Abraham, years ago, he said 90% of the population is silently begging to be led. 90% is silently
Mhm,
begging. That's the leadership piece. So
yeah,
you need those 2. Ed Roberts, I know you're doing that down there in Florida. I know you are. And there are others out there that are doing this. Sean Kingery, I know you're doing that in Wisconsin. So effective leaders, you know, the second thing is, you know, they help the team identify the gaps. Okay, Ted. So I got the vision, what you want to accomplish, your numbers for this year. So where are you versus where you want to be? And then now you and I can start dialoguing on closing those gaps. What does that look like? Daily, weekly, monthly? It's the old, you know, a single journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
yeah,
The third thing is this, is every teammate knows their value and their role. I met Willie Davis, who passed away a couple of years
yeah,
ago, Hall of Famer, Green
yep,
Bay Packer legend. And he told a story. We were in a business camp in Green Bay. I went to a few of these, and it was just, I was out of my mind. I grew up in Wisconsin, so forgive me. I bleed a little cheese, okay? But he tells this story about a guy named Kenny Beck. And I'm like, who's Kenny Beck? And he's like, he says to everybody, he says, look, you know, he's the 43rd man on the team. This is before they had 53-man rosters. And so I was, okay, God, that's why I can't remember. He only played 2 years. He had an injury. He was a 3rd or 4th round pick of the Packers. What's interesting about Kenny Beck is he played for 2 of the greatest leaders ever in football. When I say the name Bear Bryant, everybody knows who I'm talking about. And when I say the name Vince Lombardi, everybody, he played for both. There's only 2 guys in the history of time that played for both
yeah,
of those coaches.
well,
Yeah. So you would say, well, gosh, then he knows everything that he needs to know. Listen, Willie took him under his wing in training camp, and he spent time with him knowing he was a 43rd man. Willie was a starting defensive end. We had Henry Jordan on the other end, and those in the 60s, both Hall of Famers, but he spent time with them. And this is what Ken Beck said. He said, nobody ever told me my job was that important until Willie Davis did. So, tip 2, duplicating yourself, growing the people around you. These 3 principles will guide you. So that's tip 2. Tip 3 is this: good training will overcome bad instincts. So on the left, I want you to look on the screen
Yeah.
here. March 30th, 1989. Ted, you remember this, right?
I remember this day. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah.
the first video on the left, you can find this online, but I
Sure.
love using this story to teach. When the first shots rang out, the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan, you saw instinct. What do you see there, Ted? You see the cop flinching. You see the next guy flinch. Everybody's flinching. Is that training or instinct? My
Mhm.
friend, that is
Mhm.
instinct.
Mhm.
Nobody says, hey, now listen, if you're ever around gunfire and you hear it fire, make sure that you hunch quickly. And no, it's in us. That's instinct. And it was a good instinct in that moment.
Yes.
But I want you to look to the right. You see on the left, you see the guy whose elbow is kind of cocked like that? Well,
Mhm.
that's the guy on the right that now looks like a shield, Ted. That's Tim McCarthy, who
Mhm.
did 40 years in law enforcement. And after he took a bullet, Ted, you know what he said? I did the job I was trained to do.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. How many of you guys are struggling training service advisors?
Mhm.
How many guys are having a hard time training CX? How many? I have one more question for you. He said, I did the job. I was what, Ted? I was
Trained to
trained to
do.
do. So that means there's a bullet taking 101 course, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine you and me checking in our first day? Hey,
Wow. Yeah.
Traver and Ings here for bullet taking 101. We're yeah. Hey, are those blanks now that they're going to fire, or are those real whistlers? Hey, I have a question. Here's the question. If these guys can learn how to take a bullet, do you think we, with all of our experience, with our leadership, do you think it's possible that we might be able to teach our teammates what CX looks like? You think it's possible we might teach them what writing and squeezing the lemon in an RO looks like? Is it possible to maximize these UIOs? I think it is. I used to believe that, happiness was a state. And then I think I just kind of expanded that thinking, Ted, at one point. I said, you know what? All unhappiness is caused by comparison.
Mm.
When you get frustrated, gang, and you're in the lane and you're teaching your staff and it's not happening, I need you to come back to this principle. I need you to remember moments like this, courses like this. What you and I do is meaningful work. It is a good endeavor. Stay at it. And if you need help, you reach out and you get help on the sidelines from folks that can do that. But good training will overcome instinct. So a measurable 2023, my friend, a little plus a little plus a little equals a lot.
A lot.
Greater is he can get those 10 people to do their job than the one who's doing the job of 10. And good training always overcomes instinct. As always, my friend, we catch the calls, we load the shop, we change the world. We simplify. That's the beginning, the mouth of the funnel. That's where it all happens. And we're here to help in any way we can. Sometimes that's listening, sometimes it's doing, serving. We're excited about 23, and those watching should be too.
John, this is the perfect time of year to take advantage of everything you're discussing and to reach out to Traver Connect, right, for more information. John, you've got the wisdom and the tools, and John, it makes so much sense. And you catch those calls, John. We've heard that over and over, but you know what? We all know that that's one of the big areas, okay, that we can improve. And you're exactly right. Yeah,
You bet.
love it.
You bet.
Mm, love
Always
it.
a pleasure. Hey, so number 19, let's have an incredible show this week. NADA here in Dallas. I put some stuff out there for folks that are in town, some recommendations for
Mhm.
restaurants and so
Mm.
forth. And I hope you guys have a super productive NADA show and look forward to 2023 together. And Ted,
Yeah,
we
sure.
look forward to Fixed Ops Roundtable number 20 in just
Coming
a
up,
couple
yeah,
months.
in just a few months.
Yeah.
In the meantime, John, thank you for helping us kick off this event, number 19, the Wild West. We are very indebted to you. John Traver, everybody, the CEO of Traver Connect. Great resource. Reach out to John. Great friend of the Fixed Ops community and the Roundtable. John, thank you for all you do.
It's our pleasure, Ted. Thank you.
John Traver, everybody, from Traver Connect, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.